Back in November 2021, Thursday night, our family was getting together after a very long time. I went up to Vermont to be with my family for Thanksgiving and stayed with them for the weekend. Our Thanksgiving wasn't huge, since our family is so spread out over the East Coast. It was myself, my parents, my older brother and his girlfriend, and my aunt and uncle. The house is big enough to accommodate all of us. We had our family tradition of watching a movie together after dinner, while the fireplace was going. After the movie, we had ice cream and afterward played cards. Around 11, everyone started to get situated wherever they were sleeping. My brother and his girlfriend took one of the 2 spare bedrooms. My aunt and uncle took the second. There was a nice pull-out couch in the living room that I'd be sleeping on, which I did not mind. I liked being able to sleep by the fireplace. It was very cozy. I had the TV on as I was nodding off. When I felt that I was about to fall asleep, I turned off the TV. The fire was breathing its last breaths, and the room was just about pitch black. My memory faded into a dream that shook me. The dream was creepy, and it was about the same house, same dining room, and the same dinner, but with no lights on, and a creepy shadow of a person dressed in creepy clothes, standing at the corner of the room. We were at the dinner table when suddenly all of my family members in my dream stopped talking, turned, and looked at me, and my Aunt Melissa said in a very serious voice, "There's someone in the house. Wake up." I jolted up quite abruptly after this, and my heart was already racing for some reason. I was all sweaty, lying on the couch. The way my dream ended genuinely disturbed me. I sat up and looked around the dark room, actually feeling uncomfortable. The super high ceiling of the living room made me feel even more exposed. I heard a creak on the floor where the kitchen and living room meet. I looked in the direction of the kitchen. The fire was completely out now. There was no light in the room, yet I thought I could see a person standing right where the kitchen started. I asked who it was, expecting one of my family members to answer back. They didn't. The silhouette-looking shadow in the doorway of the kitchen was still there, though. I sat up just a little more to look closer at the doorway. The silhouette then started moving. I asked who it was, a bit louder this time. Whoever it was went towards the back door, and I heard the back door close. I didn't scream or wake any of my family members, but I did get up to check it out. There was nothing to see, so I just went back to the couch, thinking that whoever it was, they were gone now. On my way back, I went to the dining room, and when I looked at the table, I was reminded of the creepy dream I had. I nodded it off and grabbed a glass of water. As I took a sip, I subconsciously looked at the corner of the room where I saw that scary shadow of a person dressed in those same creepy old clothes. The scary shadow of the person from my dream was still standing there. I started shivering by seeing that creepy person standing at the corner of the room, hidden in the shadows, looking right at me. He started moving and came in the dim light to expose himself. He was scary looking. He didn't look very well groomed, and he was holding a bag made of cloth in his hand. I couldn't figure out what he was keeping in that bag. As he moved towards me, I panicked and tipped over the glass, which made it shatter all over the floor, leaving a wet and slippery floor. As I tried to run, I fell on the ground, injuring myself from the crushed glass on the floor. I was lying there on the floor screaming while trying to get up. It woke everyone up, and when they came, I told them everything I saw. I was petrified. They found footprints in the house, and the place where the scary and creepy person was standing were pee on the floor. We called the police, and while we waited for them, my brother and I looked out the window towards the backyard, which pointed towards a forest. Inside the woods, we saw that someone was hiding behind the trees, looking back at us. A few weeks later, the town confirmed that a homeless person who broke into people's home to find food and clothes had been arrested. Some kids from school claim they have heard he had abducted several kids, and some of the kids' body was found in the woods as well, and some are still missing. If I believe that, I don't know. This incident happened when I was about 13 years old. I remember that year we were hosting Thanksgiving at our house. People were coming over in the afternoon. My parents were up late preparing food the night before, and my sister and I were helping cleaning the house. We had a 2-story house. All the bedrooms were upstairs. Downstairs were the main living room, the kitchen, the dining room, and a few other rooms. Our house was sort of big, and it was a good place to have a bunch of people over. I remember that before going to bed, my parents mentioned how they had to get up early to get more food ready for the day. The next day of Thanksgiving went great. It was lovely to meet the family, but things took a tragic turn that night. My mom and dad, along with other family members, went out for some reason and left me and my sister at home. They said that they would be back in a moment. It must have been like 10 p.m. or so. I remember my mom saying she just wanted to let me know and that they would be back soon. Then she left. Probably like 30 minutes later, I heard something outside of my room. Something like a loud thud. I didn't think much of it, but got out of bed to use the bathroom. When I entered the hallway, I noticed that my sister's bedroom door was open and she didn't appear to be there. I could sort of hear the TV playing downstairs, and I figured that she must be downstairs. I used the bathroom and then went downstairs. I looked around for my sister, but she was nowhere to be seen. I went into the kitchen, but she wasn't there either. I guessed that maybe she had gone with my parents. I returned to the living room towards the couch. Then I heard a noise. It sounded like a whisper. I was startled, and then I heard it again. It was my sister's voice, and it sounded like she was behind the couch. I looked behind it and saw her. She was all crouched up into almost a ball and looked terrified. She just whispered to me that there was a man in the house and told me to hide. I quickly went behind a sort of lazy boy chair that was next to the couch in the living room. I whispered to my sister, asking where the man was. She said she didn't know, but when she came downstairs, she saw a guy in the kitchen. Just then, we both heard a noise. It was coming from the hallway near the front door. I looked out from behind the chair I was hiding behind, and I saw a guy walking into the living room. He was tall and wore a black sweatshirt. He also had on a hat, but I didn't get a good look at his face. I quickly but quietly tried to move back behind the chair so that the guy couldn't see me. I heard him walk around the living room, and the footsteps got closer. They came within maybe 15 feet of where my sister and I were hiding. I was terrified, and my heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. It's a good thing the TV was playing, or I feel like the man would have heard us. I heard him walking away, seemingly into the kitchen. The kitchen was farther away from the front door. I felt like maybe my sister and I could get away if the man was in there. I whispered to my sister and told her to follow me. We counted to 3 and then got out and ran as fast and as quietly as we could to the front door. The area where the man was, in the kitchen, was sort of blocked off from seeing us. We didn't look back to see if he heard us or saw us. When we made it to the front door, I unlocked it and opened it as fast as I could. Then we both rushed out the door and into the driveway. Right after we got outside, we saw our parents' car driving down the street and pulling in. It was relieving to see, and we both ran out to them. They barely had a chance to get in the driveway and seemed confused to see us running out of the house. We got inside the back seats of the car and told them about seeing a guy inside the house. As we got inside, we heard someone breaking the back window. Approaching the window together, we saw muddy footprints, but there was no trace of a person anywhere. My father ended up calling the police. We went for a drive down the street for a little while because my sister didn't feel safe in the house. The police showed up pretty quick. They told us that there had been multiple complaints of such incidents around the town. We couldn't forget this incident for quite some time. My sister still gets nightmares. This incident happened during a cold night of November, the day after Thanksgiving. Once our relatives left the place after a lovely family get-together, a fair was held in our town to celebrate the occasion of Black Friday. The whole town used to wait for that fair every year, to buy goods and enjoy the rides there. It had lots of things to enjoy, but something that I was particularly excited about was the mysterious maze. I'd been there a couple of times with my family when I was younger, but they never allowed me in. So this time, I planned to go in the fair along with my friends. I wanted to explore that maze, which had lots of mysteries and scary events related to it. People used to say that this Black Friday fair has always been a place of mysterious deaths of a few who go there. And it was true as well, because for the past few years, police have found dead bodies around that maze. There have been rumors that something is fishy about this fair, but I didn't care. So I called my friend and went to that fair late at night, about 11 p.m. There were very few people there at that time of night because most of the families had already left, so it was better for us. We played some random games there, and then I called all my friends to enter the maze. None of us hesitated to run into it and try to get as lost as possible. That was until somehow we split into 2 groups. The 3 of my friends ran off one way, and I was left with my buddy Mark. Seeing as it was a maze, there was no use in trying to chase after the others. We went our way for a few minutes, then started trying to find our way out. During the 10 or so minutes that we spent walking around, we never heard or ran into any of the others from the group, which made us wonder how big the maze was. At some point, we were getting tired of it and started trying to find the way out. Whenever there were multiple paths, we would split up and check if either was a dead end, then come back and go down together, whichever we thought was best. But on one of these random crossroads, Mark didn't come back. I waited for a long time, at least 2 or 3 minutes, without hearing or seeing him, until I heard footsteps coming from down the path. As I waited for Mark to reappear, something about the footsteps didn't seem right. A moment later, a large man came around the path and walked up to me. He was wearing farmer-type clothes like overalls, a flannel shirt, and boots, looking like all the other employees at the fair. He said it was closing for the night and that he would take me out of the maze. I told him my friends were in there as well, and he said that he'd already shown them out, which made everything else make sense. Now I followed him, going around multiple turns and corners, but strangely, the sound of the fair started to get quieter and quieter until I couldn't hear it at all. It was just me and this man walking through a dead, silent corn maze. Then we reached a dead end. I stopped and watched the man pull aside the corn and start pushing his way through it, urging me to come through. I did as he said, walking through it and following close behind him until the corn abruptly stopped and turned into an empty field. As I looked around, I realized that this was the other side of the cornfield, opposite the town and fair. Right in front of me was a car parked in the grass with its engine running and headlights off. My breathing became shallow and my heart rate started increasing. All of a sudden, the man quickly turned around, growled, and tried to grab me. I was able to react fast enough, moving away and running back into the maze. As I sprinted back onto the path, I heard the man forcing his way through the corn again and following right behind me. I started going straight through all of it, just trying to get back to the fair where hopefully someone could help me. This seemed to work as the man never caught up to me. When I made it out, my whole friend group was standing at the entrance waiting for me. It's not clear what happened, but Mark said he came back for me, and I was gone. None of them saw the man though, and almost didn't believe me until I called the cops. All they found were tire tracks in the grass, no car or man anywhere. About a year ago, I went to a utility store nearby named Best Buy on Black Friday. The store started its sale a day before Black Friday, so I went late at midnight. I went with my best friend Taylor to look for a new laptop and maybe whatever other stuff caught my eye. As we got there, we saw that there were no cars in the parking lot, and the light outside the store was flickering. The only employee in the store was looking at us through a glass window. We ignored it all and went in. We split off to look for our things. The store was strangely empty. We were expecting that it would be busy because of the deals, but what we found there were half-empty shelves and a mysteriously quiet employee with empty eyes just staring at us. Anyhow, I went to the section I was interested in, and while browsing the laptop section, the same strange employee in a blue Best Buy shirt approached me, asking if I needed help. I gave him specific specs I was interested in, and he started looking around with me. He showed me one laptop he claimed he liked and then asked me what it was I'd be doing with the laptop. I found it to be a slightly odd question, but maybe it was part of his sales pitch. I said just for school and general web browsing kind of deal. After this point, though, he seemed more interested in me rather than helping me. He was asking a bunch of personal questions like where I'm from, where I go to school. Anyway, I started realizing he seemed like a weirdo and I found him overall creepy. So I reminded him politely about the laptop and that I was in a hurry. He was relentless though. He asked for my phone number after that. I made it clear to him I was uninterested. Luckily, I locked eyes with Taylor, who happened to be walking over, and I yelled at her to help me with something here. She understood the situation and she came over and grabbed me by my arm and told me to follow her. I said sorry to that creepy employee and followed Taylor away. We walked to the other side of the store. I told her I didn't want to see that guy again. He was obsessive and creepy and didn't get the hint that I was being uncomfortable with him. We left the store after that with plans of going shopping elsewhere tomorrow. We were both starving though, so we went to the nearby diner, which is open 24/7. We sat at a booth and looked at the menu. The place was practically empty at this hour except for a lone man sitting at the bar, seemingly looking at the menu as well. He was facing the other side, and I could only see his back. I didn't notice him there 5 minutes earlier. It was as if he just appeared out of nowhere. He was in a gray jacket, but somehow his hair seemed familiar. I whispered to Taylor to look at him. As we looked at him, he tried to subtly turn to look at us, but when he realized we were already staring, he looked away. But I saw a side of his face, and it shook me. It was him, the Best Buy worker, the creepy worker who followed us here. I whispered, "Let's go," and we got up and left the diner. We hurried to my car, and I drove home to my house as fast as I could. Taylor was feeling sleepy, so she went to bed, but I was continuously feeling scared because of that creep. Eventually, there were 3 slow knocks on the living room window. We both shrieked and didn't know what to do. My apartment is on the bottom floor. We kept on saying that it was him. We went to the window to see what was that, but oddly couldn't see anyone outside. It was total darkness, as if something was blocking our view. But we could feel footsteps and creepy giggles just outside the window. We were scared and had to call the cops. When we got a knock on the door from the police, we immediately felt safer. So it turned out the reason we couldn't see out the window was because a shirt was hung over the window, blocking the view inside or outside. Not just any shirt, a blue Best Buy shirt, and pinned to the shirt was a posted note that said, "I don't work at Best Buy." The police recommended I file a harassment charge, but the problem was I didn't know his name or who it was. When they inquired about the incident, and I told them everything, one of the policemen said that the store I was talking about had been sealed due to some legal actions against the owner. When they took me to that store to find out, the store was closed, and the light outside the store was flickering the same way it was before. They said I could get a lawyer and get the surveillance footage from Best Buy to find the guy, but it sounded like a lot of work. I let it go, but I stayed at Taylor's apartment for a few days. I still can't believe that guy followed us to my house.